you're more likely to buy from someone that you trust rather than a business that you trust. The only thing we are really selling to the prospects is trust. If you can't get them to trust you, you can have the world's best product. You could be the most incredible X, Y, and Z. But if they don't trust you, it doesn't matter.
Will these solve my problems? And if not, you're already out.
100%. You could have a site with this is who we help and this is what we solve. And then here's a load of testimonials of saying, we've helped these people and look how happy our clients were. Basically, the strategy that we implement is what's called the 911 method, where it's like 9 pieces of value, 1 piece of information about you and the business. There's no real call to action. And then 1 super salesy one, where it's like, we're doing this for 48 hours. If you want to join now. The rise of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of key people in your business building out their own networks, because people are now more comfortable buying from people than big brands. The trick is the strategy behind it and the understanding of your target market and what you want them to do.
Tom Declat from Visionary Grid.
That's the one.
Welcome to Brands and Leaders' second episode.
Wow.
Really glad to have you here. I couldn't say we've been planning for ages, but we talked about this like one of the TechX events.
Yeah, a while ago. Yeah.
A while ago, yeah. And I'm like, it is on me because, it took me a lot longer than I was hoping, to put this together. But here we are.
We made it.
We made it, yeah. Okay, a bit about yourself. If I meet you in an elevator, what's your elevator pitch? How do you present yourself with what you do?
That's a good question. I like that. An elevator pitch, literally in an elevator. Basically, my name's Tom. I run a design studio called Visionary Grid. And what we do is we help businesses with either complex technology or products or systems, explain that to a non-tech audience, right? So we have a process in place where we can kind of distill down what you sell, what it is that you offer, and make that super clear, super valuable, and build a website and potentially a brand around getting leads and selling that, essentially.
Yeah. So just, I guess you guys got these out of the context. We're going to talk about brand and everything else related to it, and websites, because this is one of your specialty, right?
Yeah.
But obviously website requires a lot more stuff going on. So you need to know a wider spectrum, not just that. You probably need to know a bit about video, about photography, about how to put them in place. So it's a bit of, I guess, UX and UI 100%. And all that. So you got to be a bit of like jack of all trades to make it work.
Exactly that. Yeah, I sort of kind of was surprised at how many skills you need to pick up to build a good website. I thought it was just like once you learn to code and once you learn to design, that's it. Whereas actually, I'd say a good half of the projects that we run now is around psychology and, target differentiation and why are we doing what we're doing. Before we even touch design, we kind of know what we're doing. Sort of a lot of my skills in design sort of take a bit of a backseat while we figure out the best ways to achieve what we want to achieve. And then we do the design bit, the pretty bit that people expect.
Yeah. But do you think in 2025, websites are still relevant, or what's different between, let's say, 2020? Because I feel like these are everything is moving so fast these days, and especially we're going to touch on AI in a minute. But do you see them still relevant? How long do you think this will be relevant? Some people say, website might not be. I feel at this point, they are, because AI talks to what sees online.
Yeah.
It's still at that point. It doesn't necessarily have a brain for it on its own in a way. But how do you see this?
So it's a good question again. Like I've noticed I've been doing this for 15 years. So when I first started doing this, I think people treated their websites almost like the brochures that you'd get, so you would put everything, the whole company story, who you are, every person on the team, and the pages would be these kind of monstrosities because that's how you explained everything. Whereas over the last 5 years especially, the less you put on a website, almost always the better it is. So, the kind of process of telling a massive story is not really what they should be used for anymore. It should have a hyper-focused job and a role. Someone that doesn't know you, they land on your site. Within 15 seconds, you need to communicate the problem you solve and the next step you want that prospect to take, rather than, now you've got to spend 20 minutes digging around the site to have a look at who we are and understand everything about us. People just don't have the attention span. It really has got to be I understand what you do. I'm interested in working with you. What's the next step? And that's it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a clear vision of what you do. Yeah, I think it's really important. And I kind of learned not from building websites because I'm pretty bad at this. You'll probably just check my website and you'll figure out yourself. But I learned from YouTube because it's kind of the same with video. If you don't grab people's attentions in the first 3 seconds these days, then nobody's going to care if you have something really good to say in the middle of the conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost like the hook, right?
Yeah.
The hook.
And how you package everything else, like you have the thumbnail, you have the title, and it's similar to what you see when you go on the website for the first 3-5 seconds. Like, is this the right person for me?
Yeah.
Will this solve my problems? And if not, you're already out.
100%. Yeah, exactly. I think, I used to see websites when you'd land on them and they'd say like, hi, welcome to our website. And, we're X, Y, and Z. And you still see those, unfortunately. But most of the time now, it's what it should be. We help this type of client solve this type of problem. That's basically as straightforward as they need to be. And then as soon as you kind of resonate and connect with that message, you're so much more likely to do the next step because you think these guys understand the issues I'm facing.
Yeah.
And these can solve it.
I feel like this is something so overlooked by clients. I mean, at least, as I said, coming from the video world, I see people, putting a lot of effort into like, well, the image to look okay, the video look fine and all that, but then when it comes to like, how we going to title it, let's say, when you put it somewhere, if let's say you want to, and you should, let's say charge for that strategy around, keywords, everything else that comes with it, the way you optimize it. I feel like, I don't know, let's do it. But I'm like, you're kind of wasting you wasted your money. You're wasting your money.
Yep.
Because you put all that effort, getting it nice, clean shots and everything else, get the message right. But then, if you don't get that click and people don't go on it, what's the point?
100%. Yeah, no, exactly. And I think just as much as it pains me to say as a designer, the best sites aren't always the best looking ones. Like I still think I could build a really great site that is just in black and white, but it says the right things and provides a really good experience and the next step for a person. Fundamentally, you could have a site with this is who we help and this is what we solve, and then here's a load of testimonials of saying, we've helped these people and look how happy our clients were. That's arguably all a good site would need because you've got all the trust signals there and you're providing these next step. You don't need to have loads of lovely imagery and videos and whatever.
On the note of testimonials, because I'm obviously I'm biased, whenever I'm going to talk about video, you need to say, hold your horses, you might be wrong here. But I feel like, there are quite a few websites. Obviously in Jersey is different. When you say you're touching an international market, because in Jersey, like we kind of know each other in a way. So it's really hard to say, Tom said something good about me, I'm just going to put it on the website, but that she actually didn't, because you might actually see it at some point, or somebody else will do. But I feel like in text, sometimes it feels fake, or sometimes it actually is fake. So I feel like, video gives that edge sometimes, to kind of like bring that, bring what's valuable and bring the real image of like, what people actually want to say. Do you recommend video in building websites? Do you recommend like testimonials in video over text? I mean, I guess, there is a place for text because you on the SEO side that helps. But how do you see this?
So you're spot on. Video is great, in my mind, for two main things. One is like a video sales letter. So you do a VSL, which is 2 minutes, everything someone would need to know about your business, who you help, what you solve, the next steps they need to take in a nice condensed video. They're really, really strong because if someone is interested in working with you but doesn't want to spend 10 minutes scrolling around the site and finding out about you, that sort of snippet is amazing. Secondly, video testimonials. If you can get those, they're arguably the most useful thing that you can get on your site, probably more so than the written text. However, it's a lot bigger of a hurdle to get your clients to do it. So I've asked all of my clients, only a handful that do video, but if you can't get that, testimonials by text are great as well. Fundamentally,
It's
all
better
you need to
that
do.
than not having it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I said, if you let's say you do it for someone credible, and sometimes what helps, what I've seen, at least in my, what kind of brings a bit of trust in when people sometimes put it on the website, they actually give a full name, job description, and sometimes even a photo. And I'm like, I increase my trust level, with another like 20-30%,
Yeah.
instead of just saying someone said something good about us, quote, and it's just not.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? The only thing we are really selling to the prospects is trust. If you can't get them to trust you, you can have the world's best product. You could be the most incredible X, Y, and Z. But if they don't trust you, doesn't matter. But if you can put all of these things in place that prospects immediately go, I know who these people are, I trust them, they can promise what they're delivering, you've done 90% of the battle. And that's why social media marketing and stuff works really well, because for some reason you trust a celebrity with 1 million followers. If they say something, you go, oh, that person's selling this thing, it must be good. You immediately trust it. And that's basically all you need to do with your site.
How much you see how much it changed? Like, it's crazy, because we're talking about change over the years. Now influencers sell more than most of like TV ads that before used to be like the killer of, you just put a TV ad, probably even a bad one, you just know you're gonna sell. And now it kind of flipped on its head that influencers with big audiences, or even small audiences, depending on what you're selling, they just have a lot more power. And coming back to trust, because they build that trust before they even ask for the sell. I think that's the key. We don't really see that much in Jersey, because I guess we don't really have that many influencers. Or the ones that we do, they sometimes leave the island, I guess. There are a few YouTube channels I know that are quite popular here with like over 100,000 subscribers, but they're quite niche.
Yeah.
There's a guy, I can't remember, the guy that plays FIFA that's got I don't know how many millions. Yeah, he's got million subscribers. Yeah, I can't remember. He's a Chris, I think, something. Yeah, he's even done one with Cristiano Ronaldo and all that. So it's in a totally different league. Yeah.
Wow.
There is another one doing something about Game Boy.
Okay, yeah.
Game Boy is like old gaming, if you know.
Yeah.
Retro tech future, I think. So that, again, but quite niche. And I think there is another one which does more of it's more of like a funny one. I can't remember.
But that's the beauty of the internet, right? You can kind of go, I think it was an inch wide and a mile deep. You can find your niche, and they're going to be X thousands or millions of people that are interested in that niche or resonate with that niche, because the world is a big place, well, a small place now with the internet.
Yeah.
Whereas, even 20 years ago, you almost had to be a generalist to get traction because you're targeting a local market. Whereas now you can be super specific, target anyone in the world with that specific problem. Great.
Yeah. But can you go niche with what you do? Obviously you do websites, so that's already a niche. And then from there, there is branding, there is more attached to it. But can you go, I think in Jersey it's a lot more complicated. You see, I mean, you also targeting an international audience. So I guess you a bit outside of Jersey as well. But can you be, let's say, well, I just do websites for doctors, for example. Is that something that would work, you think?
Absolutely, yeah. To be honest, I almost always recommend that. Being a specialist is almost always stronger than being a generalist. So, you can really get to grips with the problems that niche is experiencing. So when you put a product in front of them that solves it, they want to buy. There's so much more power than saying, I'm a brand designer, which great. There's a. It's
like I work in IT. I do also.
Exactly. There's a million brand designers around. You've got to be in a really specific window of time to go, we need a new brand. Then you're always competing against other brand designers. Whereas if you're a specialist and targeting either an industry or a problem, like we help businesses who are expanding into new markets. We build their brand and speak to a new audience in a way that feels like them. That's a really specific point in time of a business's life. So when they hit that and they see you saying this person specializes in that, great, they're going to choose you over the 100 other brand designers because you're really understanding what they need next. So yeah, I think always be a specialist if you can.
And I fully believe in that. And that's what I'm trying to do with Jersey Podcast, just focusing on podcast. I've done a few. I feel like, not necessarily being a great host, because I don't think I am, but it's just more of a situation, understanding how podcasts work, because that's what I wanted to start doing it. because YouTube with the short form content, and most of my YouTube channel is kind of short. It's like 3-5 minutes recipes, and it's totally different from this. It's cooking, and that's how everything started. Like video literally changed my life. But I feel like this is different approach. You got to understand different things. Like long form, it just works differently, and the strategy behind it. And going back to that, which I think it just doesn't get enough credit. I think strategy in most situations, because like what you were saying, you know, most people like wouldn't really have an idea of like how to manage and how to do, whether about a brand, whether about putting together a website and everything else. It's not just the technical part, like the code and making it look nice. It's a lot more to it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's the easy part, right? Especially with new tools that are changing all the time. Like, 20 years ago, if you needed a website, you'd have to pay a team of people to do it. Whereas now you can get out the door in the same day with something like Squarespace. You can get a pretty good looking website up and running quickly. The trick is the strategy behind it and the understanding of your target market and what you want them to do. And then what we implement is what's called an offer ladder. So, steps that you can put in front of your prospects to move them along the journey, rather than saying book a call or something which is quite a high barrier to entry if someone doesn't trust
you. It's like how are they saying you're trying to take her on a date before even
exactly. Yeah. And then that's what I see a lot of businesses do, where they say, here's who we are, here's what we do, here's a proposal. And if someone doesn't know you and they see a proposal straight away, it's like, blimey, that's a lot. Whereas actually the real trick is, we understand what you're going through, and here's a little snippet of what we can do to help you for free. And then once you do that, you're like, oh my God, I trust these guys. And the next stage you move up, and the next stage you move up. So actually you're kind of putting breadcrumbs in front of people that make them feel comfortable taking the next step.
But do you think this is what affects, in a way, not credibility, but, the real value of strategy, having these website very accessible, doing them in a day, although they are bad, but look what I've done, I'm not going to pay someone I don't know how many thousands of pounds. I just done it in a day and it's here, and you can look. It's so obvious sometimes when they're done like that, comparing to having some sort of strategy behind it. Do you think that's kind of affecting the credibility of the strategy, because we have all these tools at our disposal that we just think like, well, I'm just a designer today. I just feel like a designer. I just done my website. How hard can it be?
I mean, it is true. I think it kind of depends on the target market and then who you want to help. Because there's always going to be space for people that just go, I need something basically quick and dirty out the door. And I would never pay thousands when I could do it for a couple £100. But there are serious businesses who know that by investing in a good website, they're going to get more clients. And even if it's a 1% approval rate in conversions, that pays for the website 10 times. That difference really does make a difference. I always liken it to smartphone cameras. 20, 30 years ago, you have to bring a camera with you to get good photos. Whereas now, every single person in their pocket has a better camera than you could ever have. But there's still a really good market for high-end photographers, because there are people that value being seen properly, having good lighting, having all the right stuff, because it makes a difference to them. And I think it's the same with websites. You can get something cheap and nasty, but the ones that really invest in it get the most out of it. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. But how do you see AI, influencing now the way we search, the way SEO works? Because, okay, we're building a website, but we've got this AI now that's running crazy now. And how does that work, in your world these days?
So at the moment, it's not been too painful in the sort of web space, but I think it will change. I do think it will change. And I think actually going back to the strategy behind it, it's going to become more important over the next sort of 5 years, because that content is going to be what compels people to move along the journey, rather than how it looks, right? You can have a cheap and nasty website that looks amazing, but if it's just saying some random content that AI spat out, you will not stand apart from people that put the time, the effort, and the thinking behind who it is they target, how can they help them, etc., etc. So, yeah, I would imagine that websites become still useful. They're still there as the final kind of trust signal. You use AI, you find what you're looking for, you land then on the site, you then decide, yeah, I want these guys to work with me. But I almost imagine AI being the search of the future. I don't think people go to Google anymore. It will be we go to ChatGPT and we look for the problems that we're experiencing.
It's happening, yeah,
exactly,
quite deeply now.
And then basically AI will provide a series of solutions for you. So I think your site just needs to be more in tune with the problems that you fix.
Solution driven.
Exactly that.
Yeah. But something that, because not quite AI related, well, kind of, something that Gary Vee mentioned, which I'm a big fan of. He was like, it's never been more important to create your brand around what you do.
Yeah.
Because when you're gonna ask Alexa, order me a pizza, or ChatGPT, order me a pizza, they're just gonna decide themselves where to send you. If you don't ask Alexa, get me something from Pizza Quarter, because you know that they build that trust till that point. They build the brand, and you go specifically because, okay, in Jersey, again, certain things might not apply, but in time, Jersey will get affected this way as well.
100%. Yeah. I think the way I'm seeing brand move along at the moment is twofold. One, the business side of things in the traditional sense, but yeah, they're being more direct into what they solve. But then also, I don't really like the term, but personal brand, the rise of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of key people in your business building out their own networks, because people are now more comfortable buying from people than big brands, right? So, taking the like Apple approach, right? Obviously people buy from Apple, but Tim Cook has more followers because people follow the people. So
Stephen Bartlett,
exactly.
You've got many other people that are in the same situation. Elon Musk.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's where the kind of rise of the influencer thing comes from that we touched on, was that you're more likely to buy from someone that you trust rather than a business that you trust. So the businesses that we've worked with that we've seen the best results from obviously have a hyper-focused site that do really well, but there might be sort of 6 key people that target their kind of networks and will talk about problems that resonate with their ideal customers, because you're building trust via the person. When they land on the business site, it's hyper-focused to do one thing and funnel them to the next stage. You've just built all these trust levels before you've even landed on the site.
This is so true. And I remember, Daniel Priestley?
Yeah.
You probably been were you here?
I wasn't. I missed that. I know.
I was away as well. And I'm away this time again. And I'm like, this is not happening. The following year, I'll definitely be at Greenhouse. Yeah, shout out to all people that got involved organizing, especially to Jackie. Yeah, amazing, bringing something like this to Jersey. But what I was gonna say, Daniel Priestley mentions in some of his videos when people ask him like, how would you start again, a business and all that, and then obviously he talks about the operations a bit, make sure you got a good product and all that. But he was like, make sure that you've got make sure you got a key person of influence. So that exactly what you were talking about, So that's the person that creates content, that builds trust, and it funnels it all into the business. Whether with podcasts, whether with different kind of social media presence or anything.
100%.
That that works around this.
Completely. I mean, like look at someone like Alex Hormozy. People build their businesses based on what he says. They're probably never going to work with him in his gym businesses, but they trust him. And I think his new book has already made 100 million.
Yeah. The guy's already made history. It's absolutely ridiculous what he's done.
But that's all from a person, right? You don't trust his businesses necessarily. You trust the person behind it. So the power in building a personal brand is mad.
And I think, going back to Gary Vee, I remember something about him saying, the person that can hold his breath the most wins. So it was basically talking about not selling till to the point that you got like a really committed audience. And that's what he's done in a way. Okay, he says every here and there, if you want to join, I'm doing this. But it was like a lot smaller scale. It was nothing like 100-something million that he made recently. So then when he knew he's ready, when he's got like all his audience fired up, he's just done it.
Yeah. I mean, people buy from like scarcity, right? They love the idea of being on the inside of something. So if you've got a great product that you're like teasing, saying, well, we can't accept any new submissions right now, or new acceptances, people want to be part of that, and they're almost like eager to give you money. And it works. I see it all the time in business, and it works really well. If you ever see someone post online and they say, we're doing this thing, but we've only got 5 spots left, that's the reason they do it, because that scarcity makes people go, oh, I do actually kind of want to do this now. It's almost like a time limit. If I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. So you're kind of edging people to make the commitment right now, and it works.
Yeah, totally. But going back to websites, you mentioned on your website about trust audit, and then you do this. You basically go on someone's website and you go and see what's wrong, what's right, and then you come up with a solution, and in the end you present it to the potential client. How does this work? Like what are you looking for? We kind of touch every here and then, but just to structure it all in one place, how do we achieve a better online presence? How do you go about it to make that better?
So we tend to only look at the homepage because that's the one that most people are going to land on. And typically we'll start with what we call above the fold. So the first thing that you see when you land on a site. And then what I'll do is I'll look at a couple of things. One is the words on the page. What is it that you're saying? And is that enough to be clear and compelling for me to do the next step? Then I'll look at things like the buttons that you use. What are the call to actions? How many do you have? And quite often that's enough to make a start on the audit and give back to the prospect. So, I have no idea who you are, what you do, and what you help with. Like, I've got no idea from the words on your page.
Are these the most common mistakes you see?
Almost certainly, yeah, exactly. And then they might have 4 call to actions: book a call, explore more, meet the team, whatever it is, all above the fold, right? So you've basically told someone no information, and then you've provided 4 different pathways for them to explore. And people aren't interested in moving around. Like, in the best will in the world, you're not that interesting. People want to know what you can do for them immediately.
It's hard, but it's the reality.
Facts
don't care about your feelings.
100%. They just want to know, what can you do for them? So there's a process that we run through with our clients called feature to benefit mapping, and we will list out everything that they do and offer and provide. And that's normally what we see on the website. But actually the trick is then going, right, put yourself in your client's shoes. What's the benefit of each one of those things from a client's point of view? If you're fast delivery, fast turnaround, for example, I see that all the time. But from a client's point of view, that's not a benefit. Just because something's fast is not necessarily good. Whereas actually, if it's, in 21 days, we can get out the door so you can start making money with our product, there's a real tangible benefit to that thing now. I was like, oh, I want that. So just by kind of rewriting the copy from your client's point of view, you're so much more engaging. And then what we tell our clients to do is just do one call to action. Right? What is the pathway from someone getting in contact on your website to becoming a client? Most businesses we chat to have no idea. They'll go, well, we fill in the form and then maybe we call them back or whatever. So we work with them on this ladder of like, what's something valuable that we can offer now? It's not book a call. It's, if you want to achieve these 5 things today, do this thing. You built that level of trust. They're a lot more likely than to jump on a call with you on the next kind of rung of the ladder. And you're only telling them to do one thing. You're not saying explore the team or whatever. It's like, we understand the problem that you're in. And if you're looking to solve that problem, here's a little snippet that you can do right now for free. Like, that is so engaging. And I think most of the time that's enough from an audit point of view to be like, you need to look at this. You need to think about the steps from cold prospect to client and put something in place so that we can move people along that pathway.
Do you see people over-promising? Because okay, when you're not promising anything, it's bad. But then do you see people over-promising, or at least you guessing? Because sometimes I guess, they're depending on the industry. Sometimes I guess you don't know that industry that deep, but then you put yourself again in the customer's shoes, and we're like, well, this sounds too good to be right.
Yeah, you do see it. You definitely see it. But again, if it's so specific. We'll help you make, I don't know, 5 calls this week. We'll bring you 5 leads in this week, and then you've got 50 testimonials from people saying, "Oh my God, this was amazing." That overpromise suddenly feels really achievable because there's so many people saying that you've achieved that. So that's why the sort of power of a good message and testimonials is like unbeaten. But you can always tell when it's something that sounds really, how to say, kind of obvious, but it's like too good to be true. You can almost see it a mile away. But the best businesses have a good understanding of what they can do and can back it up with some level of data.
Going back to trust, right?
Exactly.
And how you build it, especially for cold person coming on the website. That's the trick.
100%.
But then going from cold to warm, because like this is something that I guess people would get value from. So you say one call to action. Yeah, I think that's important. I've done it on I think one of my websites. There's like all sorts of things going on. And then I talked to someone that actually do websites, and I'm like, he was like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "I thought it looks cool," and I thought you just say the same thing differently. And I was like, "No, you're absolutely wrong." And I'm like, "Okay, noted." But how do you get them into? Okay, you give them something for free. I guess that's like a lead magnet.
Yeah.
But do you also want to get them on a newsletter? Do you recommend newsletters? What's the process of still keeping someone within your reach? They're not ready to buy at that point. Is there something that you can do?
I think, newsletters are great for that because basically the whole point of your free lead magnet is to gauge interest for people that potentially do want to work with you. They might not necessarily be ready to pull the trigger now, but like you say, you've got their email, right? They've come through, they've got the freebie that you've offered that's helpful. Now you've got their data. So down the line, as you're sending out, the next stage of your ladder, where you can say, actually, today I'm offering for half price this next step of the journey. Is anyone interested? You can now, instead of having to go out and speak to 100 people, you might just email your 100 people on newsletter. So you've just marketed to people that already could be interested in working with you. And I think, having a newsletter or some level of kind of data capture from a business point of view is amazing, and really, really helps.
Do you help with that strategy of what you put in a newsletter? Because what I get into this conversation sometimes, and people feel the need of like selling right away. They just go and buy from us. This is the newsletter, and they don't think about giving them value, give them value along the way, because if they were not ready yesterday, they're not going to be they're probably not ready next week. So it's a longer. It's you got to work that lead basically till to the point that is prepared to
100%.
buy from you. Is there a strategy as well? Like, do you help with that? Like putting their thoughts together, or like how do you give value and only at the end have something mentioning, well, if you're interested, we're here.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's the way to do it, right? You give value back, but you provide pathways for someone to take the next step should they want to work with you. Don't get me wrong, there is a time and a place for a salesy email. Basically, the strategy that we implement is what's called the 911 method, where it's like 9 pieces of value, 1 piece of information about you and the business. There's no real call to action, and then 1 super salesy one, where it's like, we're doing this for 48 hours. If you want to join now. And that's been a good mix of value for staying on the newsletter with gentle pathways if they want to take the next step. Stuff that's just good for kind of building a bit of a brand and a bit more human, and then the super salesy ones for the guys that go, actually, I do want to immediately work with you, and this seems strong. And I think that method works quite well for social posts as well, because people don't really want to get sold to, and I think people are getting so used to the idea of being sold to 24/7. So it is more about bringing awareness to the problem that you solve and how you've solved it. Maybe things like testimonials and case studies, they're really, really strong because it shows this is what the client was in, the situation they were in before they worked with us. This is what we did to solve them, and this is the result that we've had. If anyone's in any of those situations, they are going to join and be interested.
If they feel like they belong in, or if they are in probably similar situations,
exactly,
they're
so much more likely to move forwards, right? Whereas if you just go out cold and be like, "Hi, I help businesses do this, this, and this," everyone's like, "Oh, leave me alone. You know, and I think people are so.
And you see this quite a bit on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Which, yeah, it's sometimes like,
Yeah,
I mean, you're right, yeah, and there is a place for it. You know, you do, let's say, I think, going back to Gary Vee, it feels like I'm obsessed. But I read his book, like Jab, 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 Right Hook. Well, he says, similar to what you're saying, but you just took it to a different level, which I think it needs to be, because when the book was launched was a few years back. I feel like now people expect even more value than free valuable things and then ask for the sale, for example. You just need to give a lot more in order to till you get to build that trust, and then only after ask for the sale.
I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Chris Do, but someone was saying, I think the average sort of touch points from someone just seeing you to becoming a client is like 10 touch points, you know, so they'll see your content or you around at least 10 times before deciding to take the next step. So there's real kind of power in being consistent and doing these things, because, you know, I've had clients that have come through the door 6 months, a year after I'm initially chatting to them, because they weren't ready at that point, but now they're ready. And I think it's just a case of play consistency, play the long game, keep the newsletter up, keep the social stuff up. And over time that compounds. And it's a hard thing to sort of know when you're in the moment. You're like, I feel like I'm just doing this and no one's interested, but it works over time, you know.
Look, I like what you do on LinkedIn, by the way.
Thank you.
It's great. Honestly, I really do. And you know, value. This is all I'm saying. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. So if people want to follow you, go on his LinkedIn. You know, he's got good stuff there on branding. But do you feel like, because you mentioned about the 10 touch points, do you feel like this is something that, especially because Jersey seems like a totally different ecosystem? Do you feel like this is something, because I do, but because I feel like people overlook the touch points part, and they're just like, oh, you know, relationships, you know, we build relationships. People kind of know what you do, and then, you know, they just buy from you.
Yeah.
But then how do you remind them constantly? Because obviously those people, you know, have another 1,000 probably relationships with people that offer services and so on. And how do you remind them? I guess one of the ways would be exactly this. You know, you build your online presence, you try to help as much as possible.
Yeah.
With the hope that when they're ready, they're going to choose you over the person that they have in their they met like a year ago. They've not done anything to stay in their mind, basically.
Exactly that. Yeah, you need to be in the forefront of their mind's eye, and the kind of crucial bit is when you provide the next step. It's not a big kind of high effort ask. It's not, I'm taking on calls now, and, you know, I've only got 5 spaces available. If anyone wants to jump on an hour-long call with me, click here. Like, you've got to be pretty serious as a buyer with strong intent to jump on a call for an hour to get sold to. Whereas actually, if your call to actions were, you know, I'm giving away 5 free scripts, web layouts, whatever it is, you know, that target market would find valuable, you're like, oh, may as well. You know, may as well do the next step, because that seems really valuable to me and I know I can get some benefit out of it. And all I need to do is just click this button. And that's the kind of crucial bit that I think a lot of businesses miss, is they're out there with the presence. They might be there with the consistency. The call to actions are so like high effort, whereas, you know, jump on a call or call us or whatever it is. Not many people are going to be doing that unless they're really keen to move forwards.
And it makes them coming to you, right? And something that I actually listened to another creator, I can't remember his name exactly. He was saying about, he was giving this example of like, what if you had a plumber coming to your door and knocking at your door and be like, do you have any plumbing work going on? And he was like, wouldn't that feel weird?
Yeah.
Just like, surely if I have something wrong with my plumbing, you know, I would do something about it because I want to get drowned. Or, and there are situations when it works. I mean, let's be honest. You say, I forgot to service my boiler. Can you do it? But in most cases, you know a plumber from whatever else, or you trust a plumber from whichever source. And then when you actually need something done, you call them because you know that that's the person 100%. For the job.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, there is a market for that kind of kick the door in, this is what I do. Like, it definitely works. Yes. But the kind of clients that I target probably wouldn't respond to that. So there's no point. You know, if you want to go for the low end market and make it up in volume, there's absolutely a way to do it. It's just hard work and it's probably not very rewarding in my mind. But like you say with the plumber, you're more likely to bring up a plumber when there's an issue, but that specialist is now going to diagnose the issue and provide a response. I don't want to get people coming to me and saying, what do you want? That's kind of like the odd way around of doing it. If you ever went to a doctor and was like, the doctor said, what do you want? Like, you'd be like, what are you doing? You're going to tell me the problem. That's your job. You're diagnosing. You're the expert. And I think that's the right way to do it for the type of businesses that I think most people should go for.
Yeah, totally. But for people that want to, so you are in a situation, let's say you are in a situation, someone is in a situation where they run a marketing team, or they think about improving their website, their brand in general, because I think it's a lot bigger than, and you do this as well, it's a lot bigger than just the website itself. What are some of the creators, some people that they could follow to get a better understanding? Let's say they want to get self-taught, or they want to understand, how they could benefit, from the power of optimizing or doing things, that they give you an edge online. Do you have any recommendations?
So Gary Vee is obviously a good one. Chris Do I like. Daniel Priestley, again, all the guys that we've spoken about, they're really strong in terms of sort of the business side of things. I think Alex Hormozy is definitely worth a listen as well. Not necessarily sure I agree with all of his
he's
viewpoints.
He's a bit 1,000 miles an hour. It's hard to. I'm like, how do you do it? He gives you this advice, that you go into a room, dark room, you put your headphones on, you turn off any notifications, and you just go for like I don't know how many hours straight. I'm like, wow, that's different. It is the next level. I don't think I could do it exactly how he does it. So the way he pushes himself, because I'm sure it's not always like very keen. I can't wait to do it. He just has that, what's it called? No resilience.
That kind of mentality.
I guess, to just get stuff done.
And I'm sure it does work, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to get burnt out by working 20 hours a week, 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think that would probably kill me. But I'm sure it works if you put the time and effort in. It's just, I'd rather build a sustainable, more kind of long-term business rather than getting completely burnt out.
He's definitely the kind of guy that's it's just too fast for me. I like it's again, like my wife sometimes is like, oh, I can't believe he said that. I'm like, just get 10%, that's good. Obviously we can't be perfect. Like I'm sure you say stuff that you probably shouldn't. You probably say stuff that doesn't really work for certain people, but just take stuff that you think might work for you, and then it's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I always find, like, think about the best people in your industry and your business and see what they do. There's a couple of guys who do a podcast called the Two Bobs podcast, David C. Baker and Blair Enns. And they've got a really good understanding from the sort of creative sphere of how to do running a business and design business, and like the kind of business side of a creative business. And they're fascinating, all these tips and tricks and things that I think most creatives in my shoes have spent obviously years getting good at the craft, but not necessarily the other side of it, which is running a business. You have to kind of learn that in the deep end. I always think finding people that are further ahead than you are and listening to their advice is gold.
And I think it's also like go step by step, as cliche as it sounds, because what some people probably know, but they don't want to kind of like comprehend, is that all these people that we talked about, they have teams behind them. So they go, that's why they sometimes go, 1,000 miles an hour, because they don't have to worry about editing. They don't have to worry about, they just come do it out the door, their team deals with the rest of them. And I think, starting small and don't be overwhelmed. I don't do enough like Gary Vee. Well, you're probably not going to do for a while.
Exactly, yeah. And I think it's really important to say as well that people kind of expect success to be like a linear path. All of these guys have started a business and they've done this, whereas actually every single person that I've spoken to that's been successful has made countless mistakes and backtracked, because you've got to make the mistakes to find the right path forwards. And it is a case of, let's try something, if it doesn't work, that's equally as valuable as if it does work, because the next time you do it, you're not going to make the same mistake. So you basically have to learn as you move ahead. And I always say that the guys that I work with, you're better off making the wrong mistake than doing nothing and sitting on inaction for 6 months. You're going to be in the same situation. Whereas if you make a mistake, you can correct it and not make it again. And I think it's just an important thing just to remind, it's worth making a mistake, because that's how you move forward.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Now, for people that want to find more about you, or, see how some of your work and everything else, your presence online.
My online presence.
Yes. Yeah. Where do they find you?
So I'm mostly on LinkedIn. So I'm sure we can chuck a link somewhere.
Yes.
And absolutely. Then the URL is visionarygrid.studio. And then you can find all of our lovely work there.
And we were talking about Liam. You have a collaboration with him on
the
BLT side as well. Yeah, that's interesting.
It's good fun. So me and Liam have put a side project where we've got a lot of overlap between how we work and the processes that we do. We've also got BLT.je, and that's myself and Liam from Milk, who basically run that process. But Liam does the brand stuff because it's great fun. He's
got the milk.
He's got the milk, and he's well good at it. So it's that's a fun little side project as well. Really good one.
Tom, it was an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll get you back, to talk more about branding and about how we're moving forward as AI evolves, as website evolves, as hopefully we get in a better place, with our personal branding. But it was a total pleasure.
No, thank you for having me, mate. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, definitely.